Hello everyone and welcome back to the GCSE math series. Today we're going to be looking at surface area and volume of a cone. So to start off with, what exactly is a cone? A cone is a 3D shape which has a circular base at the bottom with a curved surface which wraps around and comes back to a point at the top of the shape there. So to think about surface area of the cone, we have to account for all of the space on the exterior of the shape. So we first have to work out the area of the bottom circle, which we were talking about, the pi r squared. Obviously, this area of the circle is pi r squared. Then, to account for the surface which wraps around, the way we work this out is we times pi with r with L. And obviously, you can see that r is the radius of the bottom circle, L is the slanted height from the very top of the cone to the point down at the bottom there. That is our L, that is our slanted height. So to account for all of that surface which wraps around, we call it pi RL. Okay, moving on to volume of the cone, the formula is 1/3 pi r squared h. And if we were to think about it, it's very similar to any prisms that we might find the volume of, or any pyramids we might find the volume of. We find the area of our cross section, and our cross section, remember, is the 2D part of our 3D shape. And in this case, the 2D part of our shape is our pi r squared, our circle. So we times 1/3 by our cross-sectional area times by our vertical height. And that is how we can get the formula. Okay, moving on to some questions. I'm going to attempt the beginner question and then give you guys a chance to do the intermediate and challenge and go through it afterwards. So, to find the surface area of a cone with radius equal to 3 centimeters and a slant height equal to 5 centimeters, the best thing to do in these situations is obviously to just draw out the cone. So we are told that it has a radius of 3 centimeters and a slant height. This is our vertical height, our h, but we have our L equal to 5 centimeters. And to work out our surface area, the formula is pi r squared plus our pi r L. So pi r squared is just pi times by 3 squared added with pi times by 3 times by 5, which is equal to 9 pi add 15 pi, which is equal to 24 pi. And in this case, I always find it best to leave your answer in pi. If you didn't want to, you could always round to 1 decimal place or 2 decimal places or wherever you feel comfortable. So I'd leave it as 24 pi just to be safe, or you could write it as 75.4 centimeters squared. And those are the units because we're still working in area. When we move on to volume, the units will change, but we will come onto that later. Okay, I'll give you guys a chance to look at the next question. Please pause the video and then I'll tell you how to do it. Okay, looking at question 2, it tells us that a cone has radius 5 centimeters and a slant height of 10 centimeters. And we need to work out the surface area in terms of pi. So in this case, the question specifically mentions to leave your answer in terms of pi, so we must do that. Okay, looking back at the formula, it is pi r squared plus pi r L. So we do pi times by our 5 squared added with our pi times by our 5 times by our 10. This leaves us with 25 pi on this side plus 50 pi here. meaning the answer is 75 pi. Okay, moving on to question 3. A cone has vertical height of 12 centimeters. So 12 centimeters. Yep. And has a radius of 5 centimeters. Calculate the slant height of the cone. Okay. And find the total surface area of the cone. So this is a two-part question. And what it's asking us to do is first work out our L. And I don't know if you guys have seen it, but the triangle that our radius, height, and slant height form is actually a right angle. So this becomes our H, this becomes our L, and this becomes our radius. And obviously in this case, we can write it out as 5 centimeters here, 12 centimeters on the vertical. And if you guys remember from my Pythagoras theorem video, we can conduct 12 squared plus 5 squared is equal to our c squared. So 12 squared plus 5 squared square rooted. So c is equal to the root of our answer, which is equal to 13 centimeters. So our slant height is 13 centimeters. From here, we can now work out our total surface area of the cone by applying the formula pi r squared plus pi rl. So if I'm just going to make some space here, so we can then apply pi times by our radius squared times by our 5 squared plus pi times by our radius 5 again times by our slanted height of 12. So we can call this 25 pi add 60 pi, which gives us 85 pi. And hence, that is our answer. Hope you guys got those questions right. Now let's move on to volume of a cone. So if you recall, our volume of a cone formula is 1/3 times by our pi r squared, our cross-sectional area, times by our perpendicular height, our height from the base of the cone, middle of the base of the cone, straight up to the top vertex at the top. So a cone has a radius of 3 centimeters and a height of 9 centimeters. So I'm to draw this out, it looks something like this. Call that 9 centimeters and call this 3 centimeters. So to work out our volume, we just simply plug in the values. So 1/3 times by pi times by 3 squared times by our 9. And this is equal to, if I just put it on in my calculator, 27 pi. And in the question, it specifies to leave our volume of the cone answer in terms of pi. So we just leave that as 27 pi. Okay, moving on to question 2. Question 2 mentions that a cone has a radius of 4.5 centimeters and a height of 12 centimeters. Calculate the volume of this cone. So it has a height of 12 centimeters and a radius of 4.5 centimeters. To calculate the volume of this cone, we simply just apply our formula and go 1/3 times by pi times by 4.5 squared times by 12. So this answer would be 81 pi. But notice in the question, it asks us to give us the 2 dp. So 81 pi, or 81 times by 3.14, because that's what it says to use in the question. We get 254.34. Okay, looking at question 3, what we can do, it mentions that a cone has a vertical height of 10 centimeters and a slant height of 13 centimeters, find the radius of the cone using Pythagoras' theorem. So we can draw out our triangle within our cone. We know that the slant height is here and our vertical height is here. And we need to work out our radius. And our radius in this case, we'll call it A. So we can rearrange the Pythagoras theorem to get, say, c squared minus b squared is equal to a squared. In this case, that's going to be 13 squared minus 10 squared is equal to a squared, which means 169 minus 100 is equal to a squared. So a squared is equal to 69, and a is equal to root 69, which is equal to 8.3. So radius is equal to 8.3 centimeters. Now to calculate the volume of our cone, we can use the formula 1/3 times by pi times by our root 69 squared, and I'm going to use the exact value just for accuracy in the next answer, times by our 10, and we get times by our root 69 squared times by our 10, we get 230 pi. To two decimal places, this is 722.57 centimeters cubed. And also, I forgot to mention, this is centimeters cubed, and obviously this is centimeters cubed. Okay, that's going to round off today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed, hope you guys learned something, and as always, I'll catch you guys in a bit in the next one. And yeah, peace.